Today we will give examples of how different manufacturing industries are developing in our country. Let's talk about how Western manufacturers left our market, but something went wrong for them. Also about a breakthrough in Moskvich localization that we will soon be proud of. Let's show what's happening with our MS-21 aircraft and give an example of important import substitution. So, Western manufacturers left our market, but something went wrong. And their former production facilities in Russia not only do not stop working, but also begin to grow and develop. At the moment, the Viola plant in the Moscow region, previously owned by the Finnish company Valio, has announced the completion of the next stage of a large-scale investment project, which resulted in the launch of an updated line for the production of processed cheese in tubs. The growth of the maximum production capacity of the enterprise for the year, taking into account all works, exceeded 50%, and the total volume of investments amounted to almost 250 million rubles. The launch of the line for the production of processed cheese in tubs was the second stage of Viola's annual investment. The first stage was the commissioning of the semi-hard cheese packaging line in the spring of this year. Together, these projects, as well as other work to modernize individual process areas and improve efficiency, allowed the plant to significantly increase its maximum production capacity by more than 50%, from 15,000 to 23,000 tons in 1 year. It is worth noting that the Russian brand with Finnish roots is not just ramping up production. This allows the company not only to increase its offer on the Russian market, but will also ensure the growth of exports of Russian Viola cheeses from the Moscow region to neighboring countries, CIS, Asian countries and South America. Viola plant of Moscow region specializes in the production of the whole line of processed cheese since 2009 in triangles, tubs, slices, soft packaging, and also carries out cutting and packing of semi-hard cheeses. In total, the company produces about 80 assortment items. By the way, cheese under the Finnish brand has been known in Russia since Soviet times. Soviet consumers first became acquainted with the company's products in 1956. Then it became the first imported processed cheese in the Soviet Union. And in 1980 at the Olympics in Moscow, the Finnish manufacturer became the official supplier of dairy products of the Games. Today the company has retained all the most popular positions of the Finnish stage of its history and by means of its own production and domestic contractual productions presents more than 110 items of high-quality dairy products on our market. Now let's move on to the Moskvich. Moskvich has dramatically increased the localization of production and is not going to stop there. According to Alexander Migel, commercial director of the Moskvich automobile plant, the car is already being fitted with Russian-era GLONASS systems. The second step of localization is the production of process fluids. This is still small, but already a real domestic contribution to the localization of the car. But, of course, for the sake of it, we wouldn't be saying anything unless driving reported a real breakthrough in car localization. The fact is that the plant has started welding car bodies independently, and it is already serious. According to Alexander Migel, director of the Moskvich automobile plant, quote, "We have already installed a new modern robotic welding equipment system specially made for the Moskvich plant. The first test bodies have already been welded and the equipment is being set up. Of course, since welding is starting, there will be body painting as well, and that will happen in the very near future. Recall that now the bodies come to the factory in finished form. But if before they came almost completely finished, now the parts come, although in large units, but they were never a single car before. And next year the plant plans to switch to small unit assembly. It is amazing how correctly, competently and quickly the Moskvich plant is literally implementing the production of a new car from scratch. Of course, Moskvich also intends to introduce Russian components into car production, stamp body parts, produce automobile electronics, aggregates, and batteries. It will come down to the domestic engine. Now let's move on to the airplane industry. United Aircraft Corporation recently released a commercial, and there are a number of entertaining shots in this video, which of course, for people who follow aircraft construction, won't tell you anything new. But we are also watched by those who are not into aircraft construction. Just the other day one person wrote in the comments that MS-21 has been flying for 10 years in a single copy, and when we objected to him that 6 of them have already been built, he replied with a dozen laughing smileys. How many airplanes are built now? How many are flying? You can look in the registry. There is some confusion there related to the first production airplane, with number 73057, which is now undergoing refurbishment, but in general it can be seen that there is a lot more than one airplane being built. But back to the video. Irkutsk's final assembly shop is shown there in passing, showing 4 liners under construction in their final stages of completion. And other assembly shops are waiting for fuselage parts for the next airliners. We suspect this footage is far from new, but that doesn't matter. The main thing is that the MS-21 production process is underway. Yes, our Western partners are always thinking up ways to screw up and slow down the project. They succeed, but only in slowing it down, not stopping it. In fact, if you think about it, there is not a single country in the world that could make an airplane of the level of the MS-21 if such sanctions were imposed on it. Probably could have handled it. Well, maybe in the US, but that's not certain either. There are no other countries capable of doing this. The ban on supplying our country with first composites, then engines, then everything, did not stop the project. And the people who write, "Oh, what is taking so long to make Mississippi 21, are either not quite smart, or they write it with certain intentions to muck around. In fact, it's a miracle that the project continues and, as I've shown you in the photo, production is going on despite everything. And the plans to hand over next year serial airplanes for Aeroflot will be fulfilled. Inazimtsev, head of ODK-Gas, recently reported that PERM confirms its commitment to deliver 12 PD-14 engines in 2024. So the work is going on, going according to plan, and all the delays are just due to external pressures. Well, let's move on to an important project in import substitution. The fact that import substitution in the country is working is absolutely indisputable for me. And it began to work long before it spread and entered our vocabulary through the efforts of the media. Back in 2015, the author of the site Is Made at Us, having visited another plant, wrote, quote, "Import substitution. The media has made this word very fashionable lately. And that is why it seems that no one has been engaged in import substitution in the country before. And now the party has said it must." The Komsomol answered yes, but it isn't. Over the past month I have already visited 3 new production facilities, the products of which can be safely called import substituting. Ilodin, Sivas Engineering KB and RTK Electro M. And these 3 projects began long before the word import substitution became so popular through the efforts of the media. Therefore, just as modernization became a fact long before, as the word was rubbed in the media, import substitution has been going on in the country for a long time and successfully. Because when conditions for business development have been created in the country as a whole and in a particular region in particular, there is no need for a separate order from above. End of article. Meanwhile, we constantly hear from all sides, well, where is your import substitution? Even the moderator at WEF flatly refused to say the word on stage, calling it vulgar. Yes, and to the question, well, where is your import substitution? It's hard to answer, simply because there are so many answers that it's hard to choose from. Here's a news story I read recently, to quote, "The final sharpening gas dynamic tests of the new turboexpander unit ODK-G40 have been completed. The unit is designed and manufactured by the Russian company Turbohalad. This unit is designed to process and liquefy natural gas and has a high capacity from 8 megawatts. It will be used for gas separation at low temperatures, gas separation in natural gas processing and liquefaction plants." You might think that this ODK-G40 is an example of import substitution. Yeah, sure, him too. Previously, we mainly used products from a French cryogenic equipment manufacturer. But he escaped, and now Turbohold successfully replaces his equipment at the fields with domestically produced units. But not only that. It is important that this unit uses a Russian system of magnetic suspension bearings, which is used for the first time in this class of equipment. Here's what's really cool. The thing is that last year at the plant in Rybinsk UDC gas turbines there was a discussion about the fact that turbines need magnetic hangers. And they are not produced in Russia yet. We had to look for workarounds, which reduced the reliability and efficiency of the units. And now less than a year has passed, and Russia has established production of these complex, important units. The news does not list the manufacturer of the hangars. I wouldn't be surprised that there are already several of them in Russia, but in March Nevsky plant announced the development of such a system. He produced the first magnetic suspension system of his own design based on domestic components, materials and software. The manufactured magnetic suspension system was shipped to the Myshkinskaya station of Gazprom Transgaz Ukta within the framework of modernization of the CPPNC-16 operating as part of a 16-megawatt GCU. And there are tons of examples like this. Why don't you go far? Open the feed of our site and read. And this process is constant, continuous, and it did not start yesterday, not in 2022, and not even in 2014, but much earlier. So it seems that anyone who questions and where is this import substitution seems to be just blind. Or maybe you have another explanation?